Hey guys, what's up? It's Savannah. Welcome back to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, hi, my name's Savannah. I'm your host of My Thoughts Exactly. And before we get started, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. We also upload the video version onto YouTube on Fridays as well. So make sure you are subscribed. And with that being said, you guys, happy Friday. I hope you all have had a great week thus far. And if you haven't, guess what? It's Friday. It's the weekend. Happy Friday, you guys. We have done it. And if you haven't had a great week thus far, don't worry. Neither have I. And that's what we're here to talk about today. As you can tell by the title of today's episode, today we are doing something that we don't very often do on this podcast, and that is a fun, cutesy little story time. We typically don't do story times here, but I feel like I can't not do a story time this week. If you saw a couple days ago, I posted the first playlist video that I had posted in about 2 years, a year and a half. The last time I posted a playlist video was in September of 2023. It is now March of 2025. I cannot even believe it. And I cannot believe it's been that long since I did a playlist video. That truly is criminal. But nonetheless, I posted a playlist video on Monday. And in the playlist video, first of all, I love the video. It's so fun. Go watch it if you haven't already. I absolutely loved being able to just like get back into the swing of things. I said it before, I'll say it again, 2025, year of the comeback. We're coming back with lifestyle videos, but I wanted to kick it off with a playlist video. And the playlist video that I did, while I love it, it definitely was a shorter video. It was about 10 minutes long. And typically I like playlists to be anywhere between 15 to 20. But when I did it, first of all, I couldn't finish the video because my car got stolen. And so I put that in like the very ending. I was like, I couldn't do an outro and I couldn't finish the video because my car got stolen. I also posted it on my Instagram story saying that I was going to finish the video and make it longer, but I couldn't because my car got stolen. But I wasn't going to let a car thief stop me from posting a playlist video over 2 years later. Like it just wasn't going to happen. So I posted about that. And when I posted that, so first of all, I want to take a second and just thank you guys from the bottom of my heart so much of how supportive you were on that video. I go through and I look at those comments on the playlist video and it just makes me melt. It makes me so happy. It makes my heart feel so full. Being able to see that you guys are still here and still loving that type of content truly means the world to me. I remember not growing up, but when I started social media and I remember I started doing the Drive With Me's and the playlist videos, I remember I would have conversations with people saying, what are you going to do 10 years down the line when, you're too old for that? Or what are you going to do when, that dies out? Like, what are you going to do when no one really wants to watch those kinds of videos anymore? And while I do think, everything comes in waves and, trends go up and down and all of those things, it's just really heartwarming to be able to see that all these years later, you guys are still here. And all these years later, you guys are still loving that type of content because I'm still loving that type of content. And I just needed to say that really quickly before we get into all of this because I can't not talk about it. It can't go unnoticed and it doesn't go unnoticed. And so seeing your guys' support in those comments just brought back a fire in me that I feel like I haven't had in a long time pertaining to that type of content. So I'm so excited and I just wanted to say thank you for that. But within all of that, so many of you, pretty much in every response that I got, it was always like, oh my God, I'm so excited about this. Oh my God, I miss it so much. Wait a minute, you got your car stolen? Or, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this. Wait, you need to explain this more. I just kind of left you guys hanging and you guys were all like, we need a story time. Tell this on the podcast, bring this, what the hell happened here pretty much. And that is what we're here to talk about today. I'm going to give you some insight as to what the hell happened. I'm going to tell you all about it and really tell you how my week has been because I feel like I'm kind of living in delusion right now. I'm going to get into it. I feel like there's reasons that I'm living in this delusion, but anyways, let's get into it, shall we? So To start off, I think I need to give you some background around the area that I live in. So, as we know, I live in Nashville, or if you don't know, I live in Nashville. And Nashville in particular, I know that this is a problem with a lot of people or a lot of areas lately, not in Tennessee, just like everywhere across the country. There are a lot of car thefts going around, or at least that's what I've heard. I've heard it on the news, I've heard it, through social media. A lot of people are dealing with either their things getting stolen, their houses being robbed, their cars are getting stolen, their cars are getting broken into. And for Nashville in particular, that also has been at its height as of late. My neighbor has gotten her car stolen twice and has gotten her car broken into a multitude of times just in the past 2 years. I have had my car, I've never talked about it, but I have also had my car broken into, never stolen, obviously, in the past couple years, but which we'll also get into that in a moment. But I've had my car broken into where people have tried to go through things or people have left things in there. Like, I have definitely had my car gone through several times. To give you kind of an idea of the neighborhood that I live in a popular neighborhood in Nashville. It's one of the, I don't want to say more touristy neighborhoods, but it's definitely one of the popular neighborhoods that you hear about when people talk about Nashville. I live in a neighborhood that is very open to the public. People can walk by my house all the time if they want to, and they do. Obviously, just because they go on walks. It's a suburban area, but it's also close to the city. I have a townhome and I have a small driveway in the front of my house, and I always park in the driveway. Hayden does not. It's it's actually, it shouldn't even be considered a driveway. It really is just like slanted on a hill, and it's just for one person. There's like a tree trunk growing up underneath it, and it's like breaking the cement underneath it. It's not a pretty sight to see at all, but it is just like a small driveway. I'm looking at it right now. So I always park my car there, and Hayden parks on the street. Typically, the cars that have gotten broken into on my street have always been the cars that are parked on the street. And I, like I said, always park in the driveway. I've had people go through my car, but I've never had it stolen, as of recently. So, and the reason I say that, and I feel like maybe we should preface with this is not the first time I've gotten my car stolen. I got my car stolen while I was living in Nashville, about 10-ish years ago. I got it stolen and I found it, or I didn't find it. The police found it a week later. I made a whole story time about this about, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. I made a story time about it. Essentially, I went out with a friend one night. I left my keys in my car, idiot move, but I left my keys in my car. And I remember, I went out with my friend and I came home. I was drinking. I don't really remember very clearly what the night was like when I got home, but I remember coming home. I remember going to sleep and waking up the next morning and my car was gone. And I remember I had to file a report. I was so discombobulated. I think I was like 19 at the time. I did not know anything about anything. And I was, had to call the police. They didn't come for like 12 hours later. They took a report, and then my car was found a week later. I got a phone call that they found it, and I had to go. It was on the other side of town, and the car was a wreck. It was a 15-year-old kid who stole it, and they had smashed the passenger side of it, and the inside of the car was an absolute wreck. He was just using it as like his little like party pen playhouse. Disgusting, gross. You can go watch that story time if you want. It's still up, but the whole thing was disgusting. But I've been through this before is what I'm trying to say. I've gotten my car stolen before, which part of me is wondering if that's what's feeding into the delusion that I'm kind of experiencing now. I don't know if it's shock or delusion. I don't know. We'll get into it. But let's talk about what's happened this time. So like I said, I have a little driveway in the front of my house, and I always park in that driveway. And over the weekend, this past weekend. So my car got stolen on the night of March 9th. And that for the past 2 days leading up to that, so March 7th and March 8th, I was spending the night at my parents' house. So I was out at my parents' house. My car was with me. I was driving my car to and from. So I drove my car out to my parents' house. It was there for the next 2 nights. And then I drove back on Sunday, March 9th. When I drove back, I had church in the back of my car. I had 2 overnight bags and like my purse, and everything was just kind of like piled into my car. Now, this is very crucial to the story as well. So Hayden, he was with me Saturday night. So on the night of March 8th, he was out at my parents' house as well. He also spent the night. Him and I drove separately. He drove out there on March 8th. I was already out there on March 8th. So he drove out there. He drove separately. So now both of our cars are at my parents' house. We spent the night together at my parents' house. We woke up on Sunday. He took his car and drove back home, and I stayed at my parents' house for a little bit longer because my mom and I were working on our wedding website. So I stayed out there at my parents', and he drove home, and he had to go work at the bar. I believe I've told you guys this before. Hayden's also a bartender. And he was scheduled to have worked a double shift that day. So he was going to work from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so he left that Sunday, March 9th, to go to work. And I was expecting to see him not until like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, something like that. So I stayed at my parents' house throughout the duration of the day on March 9th. And my mom and I are working on the wedding website. All is well. Everything's going great. It's looking fantastic. And then at around 4 o'clock, 4:30, I was like, okay, I need to go home. Like, I need to get my shit together. I was like, it's Sunday. I haven't done laundry. Like, I have a whole, like, I use Sundays as like my reset day. Like, let's do the sheets. Let's clean the house. Let's set up for a good week ahead. And I felt really behind in that because I wasn't doing any of that, obviously. So I told my mom, I was like, I need to go home. They were like, you should stay. And I was like, no, I'm going to go home and I need to like get my life together. So I got in my car, again, my 2 overnight bags in my purse, and I got church in the back of my car, and we make the drive back to Nashville. Now, I end up getting to into the city, into Nashville at about right about before 5 o'clock, I would say. And as I got off the exit to come into the city, I remember I got a call from Hayden, and Hayden told me that he actually was going to be able to get off of work early. We were both so excited about it, to be able to just like have a night to ourselves and just like have some time together just to unwind and regroup before the week ahead. And he was like, I'm going to be home in like 10 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be home in 10 minutes. Perfect. We're going to be lining up right, like getting there right at the exact same time, which we ended up doing. Hindsight's so funny because it's just all of the things that happened leading up to this are not things that normally would happen, which is what makes this all happening just so much more frustrating. Because I'm like, if this was any normal day, this would not have happened, but things were just different this day, which is why it happened the way it did. So long story short, Hayden and I end up pulling up to our house at the exact same time. When I turned onto our street, Hayden literally turned right behind me. Like, that is how like in sync we were about getting home at the same time. So we get home at the same time, and typically I'm someone who's like, oh, like maybe I'll leave a bag in the car, or oh, I'll come back and get that. I'll make 2 trips or whatever. But I was like, no, let me get everything out of the car. Luckily I did. So I grabbed my save the dates, which I'm so glad I did. The reason I brought them to begin with, because I wanted my mom to see them and I wanted my mom to look at them because she came into town. Also, I don't know if I clarified that. My mom and my brother came into town that weekend on March 9th, and we were spending time together over that weekend, and I wanted my mom to see the save the dates because she hadn't seen them in person. So I brought those to the house, and then I brought them back, and I luckily grabbed them out of the car. I grabbed my 2 overnight bags, and I grabbed my purse, and I grabbed church, and we all got out of the car together. Hayden met me at the car. He grabbed my bags and we walked up to the house together. Now, when we walked up to the house together, I remember I reached into my bag to look for my car keys, which have my house key on them. And I remember when I did that, Hayden was like, oh no, babe, it's all good. I have my car keys, which have his house key on them. And so he opened the front door and walked inside. And I remember clear as freaking day, you guys, and hindsight is always 2020. I remember when that happened, I told myself, like a little voice in the back of my head said, make sure you have your keys. Like, make sure you have your car keys. Because again, this is not my first rodeo. A, I've had my car stolen before, but B, more than that, everyone in Nashville has been having their car stolen, broken into. I've had my car broken into. My neighbors had her car stolen. Like, I know how this works. I'm smarter than that. I was like, make sure you have your keys. But because I had so many of my bags with me and I was convinced I got everything out of my car, I was like, I have all my bags. My keys have to be somewhere in one of these bags. I was like, they're here. I know that they're here. But the little voice in the back of my head was like, go get your keys. I did not listen to it. Mind you, when I got into my car to leave from my parents' house, my dad had used my car keys to he was actually moving my car in the driveway to make room for other people coming into the driveway. So he had used my car before I had gotten into it, and he left the keys in the car. It wasn't like he gave them to me and I put them in my bag. He just left them in the car because they live in a gated area and it's just very safe there. And so he just left the keys in the car, and then I went and just got into the car. So it wasn't like he gave the keys back to me and I put them in my bag. The keys were left in my car, and then I just put all of my stuff into my car right before I left, and I didn't make sure that the keys were like in a bag or whatever. But again, I was just convinced, because I've done this so many times before, oh, my keys are in my bag. But again, I had a little voice telling me to go turn around and check, but I did not listen to it. And I wish I did, obviously. So anyways, we come inside, we spend the next like 3 hours just hanging out, relaxing. I did a little laundry, and then by 8 o'clock, because remember, this was also daylight savings time, so we were extremely tired. I don't know about anyone else, but this daylight savings in particular, like more than I can ever think of, had affected us so badly. Like we were so exhausted, so tired. It wasn't even that we had a late night on the 8th, like that Saturday, because like the 9th was daylight savings. But on the 8th, I don't know, like we just all went to dinner and then we went home. And even though we all went to bed by like 11, like I don't know what it was, but we just felt exhausted. So we were really worn down. And by 8:15, Hayden and I were in bed that night getting ready to go to bed. Like that is how tired we were. So we were in bed at 8:15. Mind you, that also does not happen often for us. Like typically we'll get in bed, like typically an early night for us is us being in bed at like 8:45, 9, which is still very early, but 8:15 was crazy for us. And typically when we get in bed around 9, we're not going to bed until like 10:30 or 11. Like we watch 90 Day Fiance, we watch Love is Blind, like we watch a show, like we have White Lotus, like something of that nature we are watching on TV, and then we go to bed. But on this particular night, we were again exhausted. We get in bed at 8:15. By 8:45, Hayden's asleep. I'm watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I remember right before going to bed, because I have a sound machine that I like to sleep with. It's an app on my phone called White Noise. And I went in and I always listen to the heavy snowfall noise when I go to sleep. And so I went to go turn the snowfall noise on, and I went to turn my alarm on. And I remember when I looked at my phone, it was 9:42 p.m. And I go, oh my God, can't believe we're going to bed at 9:45. Like that's so crazy. That's so nice. And so I remember setting the alarm, and I put my phone down and I went to sleep. Now, after I went to sleep, my alarm went off the next day at about 7:30. And when that happened, I just had a weird gut feeling that something was wrong. I just kind of had a pit in my stomach. I woke up feeling uneasy, and I remember I grabbed my phone and I turned my alarm off. And when I turned my alarm off the next morning, which mind you, now we're on the morning of Monday, March 10th at around 7:45 a.m. I opened my phone, and when I open my phone, I go to my email. I am a part of, I don't know if you guys, some of you will know this, some of you probably won't. There's an app called Nextdoor. And essentially when you sign up for Nextdoor, you're pretty much just signing on for your neighborhood or community app. Like it's where people in your neighborhood like keep each other updated, or they'll like, write about different things. So it'll be as, could be as little as like, oh, does anyone have a painter that they recommend that I could use? I need to paint my bathroom. Or someone will be like, I found this cat on the side of the road. Does it belong to anyone? Or did anyone hear that noise? Does anyone know what that is? It's just basically like your community chat. And I remember when I went to go check my email again, 7:45 a.m., I saw an email from someone in the Nextdoor app who said that their Kia had been stolen out of their driveway. It did not take me more than 2 seconds after I saw that email for something to click in my head. And I said to myself, my car's gone. I just knew it. I was like, my car is gone. I know my car is gone. And I didn't get out of bed. Instead, I closed the Nextdoor app and I opened my camera app, my security cameras, because Hayden and I have security cameras in the front of the house and in the back of the house. And I opened the front security cameras, and my car was not in the driveway. Call it That's So Raven, call it psychic, I don't care. But there was a sixth sense that I had that my car was gone. And I remember when I looked at it, I just looked at Hayden and I said, my car's gone. And he was like jaw to the floor. We both were like, we shot out of bed. And I remember I ran to Hayden's office because Hayden's office is at the front of the house and there's a big window in it and you can see down. And I just wanted to confirm. So I run to Hayden's office and I look out the window. My car's gone. I'm like, yep, it's gone. I called my dad because even though I'm 28 years old, I still don't know what to do in these situations. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, my car is gone. I don't know what to do. And he told me to call the non-emergency number for Nashville, which I did. And I called that number at probably 8:30 and I reported it. And about 10 minutes later, an officer arrived to my house. I get a knock at the door, which again, luckily, when the first time that this happened to me, the police did not show up for 12 hours. I noticed that my car was gone at 9 a.m. They did not show up till 9 p.m. that same day. So I was really, really grateful that they showed up only about 10 minutes later, which again, was not what I was expecting, but I was very, very grateful that they did. So when the cop came to my front door, she and I had a conversation. I was basically explaining to her in shorter terms everything that I just explained to you up until this point. And she asked me, did you leave your keys in the car? And I was like, yeah, I think I did. And that was okay, first of all, if someone gets their car stolen, I know it's just pure curiosity of being like, did you leave your keys in the car? Tell me you didn't leave your keys in the car. Did you leave your keys in the car? Yes. That's how they took it. That's how they pressed start, turned it on, and drove it away. And again, trust me, guys, I think that's what bothers me is no one is more mad at me for that than myself because I know so much better than that. I know better. I have a true crime podcast. I know about safety. I go through all the precautions. I do everything by the book to a T. I'm such a rule follower. And the fact that I left my keys in my car, truthfully, drives me nuts. So with that all being said, she and I basically spoke for a little bit and she was very nice and very just matter of fact. And I don't want to say that she had confidence when she said this, but she was again pretty straight to the point and matter of fact that she felt like she knew what was going on. She said that a lot of times what she's been seeing has been happening is the fact that a lot of people will steal cars and use them as sometimes getaway cars to go break into other vehicles and go break in and just basically cause more crime. And then they'll drop the car off somewhere because they know that the car is going to get reported stolen. Mind you, I also don't think I mentioned when I looked back on my camera and I saw when the car was being because I don't even think I mentioned this. I think I said that I just opened the camera or opened my security camera app and saw that my car was out of my driveway. When I went back into the app and really looked into it, my car got stolen at 9:45 p.m. I think I told you guys, or I know I did, that I went to bed at 9:43. Mind you, every time something happens outside of my house, there's motion, someone's walking by, someone's dropping off a package, I always get a notification sent to my phone. And so knowing that I went to bed at 9:43, knowing that I got a notification at 9:45 that there was motion outside of my front door and that it was my car getting stolen, but I was already asleep, or I really wasn't, but I was just, I just started the process of falling asleep, was crazy to me because again, it just goes to show the sequence of events that happened were just so unusual to any other day. And had this been any other day, I would have been awake at 9:45. Had this been any other day, I would have seen that there was motion outside of my house at 9:45 p.m. I'm especially vigilant when it comes to checking my security cameras at night when there's detection of any motion or anything around. I always, if there's any sort of motion ever, even if it's just a car driving by, which I get notifications for that too, I will check the security cameras. And even though when I checked the cameras, I saw that the car got driven away, I did not see who got in it. So there was no footage of someone getting into the car. It was only the car driving away and then turning around at the top of the street and driving in the opposite direction again. So I don't know, you guys. Yeah. So it's kind of the story, the front to back. I do have, I'm just going to say it, I drive a Range Rover car, and with my specific car, Range Rover has a way that you can track the vehicle. They have a vehicle locator system, but the issue is that you have to pay for the subscription for that system every single year. And I guess I stopped paying for that subscription in 2022. And once it surpasses a year of not paying for the subscription, you have to go through the enrollment process again, which they send you an email. That email can get into your inbox within 48 hours. Once you sign up for the email, email, it will activate. However, it only will activate once the car is or someone starts the car. So what would have to happen is once I enroll myself in that system again, and I'm still waiting for that email, but once I enroll myself in that system, whoever has my car will have to start it in order for me to locate it. So that's kind of, the hope in all of this is that once I get that all sorted, someone will start my car or the cops will find it. Like I said, when I got my car stolen last time, it took a week for them to get found, or for them to find it. Everyone I know in Nashville who's gotten their car stolen, it's always been found. But I say that, and then knowing myself, I'm like, okay, even though everyone else's car has always been found, my car is not going to be found because it's me. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I feel weird about it. And I was talking to Hayden last night because I feel like I generally have, in general, since this has happened, I've had a pretty optimistic outlook on this all. I feel like I haven't felt too overwhelmed by it or too shaken up by it. And again, I don't know. I feel like that could be a multitude of things. I feel like the first thing that could be is just delusion. I feel like maybe it's shock and maybe it just like hasn't hit me yet. I remember when my car first got stolen, it really didn't hit me until I got it back. And then it like really impacted me because I realized in that moment how violating that feeling is and how just stomach turning that feeling is, knowing that someone was in your space, in your property, treated it so poorly. And I realize how violating and invasive of a feeling that is. It's such a gross feeling to feel like someone was like all up in your business like that. Like, it's just not fun. And so I'm wondering if and when I get my car back, if that'll be the same, like if it won't really hit me until I see it again. So there is that portion of it. Or if I'm just, optimistic because I feel like it will come back to me and I will get it back. Like, to me, I feel like, I don't want to say this out loud, but like, I feel like I can't imagine a world that exists where I don't get my car back. But again, maybe that's just delusion speaking rather than like logic, but that's just kind of where my head is at right now. And then I don't know what the third option really is. I don't know. I've had a lot of thought about perspective lately, and I've just been I wanted to do a whole episode about perspective, but I've just had a lot of thought about perspective lately when I look at the world and look at everything that's happening around us, specifically with the California fires and how impacted, so many of the people that I know and love were and still are, and just that entire community as a whole. And you learn about people who have lost everything. They've lost their homes, they lost their valuables, they lost their memories, their pictures, their everything. Like, to me, it's like I go back and forth because I'm like, yes, it's so important because it's a car and someone took my car, but then I'm like, I have everything else that I could ever need. Church is fine, Hayden's fine, I have my things, I have my laptop, my cameras, my cords, my chargers, my batteries, my save the dates. I have everything I need. And so I don't, like, for me, it's like I'm just looking at it from a bigger lens right now of that could have gone so poorly. Typically, let's say, sometimes on a regular night, I'm like, oh, I forgot something in my car. Let me go out to my car and grab it. I'm lucky that I was in bed, and I'm lucky that I was sleeping and that I didn't wake up at 9:45, or it wasn't a normal night where at 9:45 I was like, oh, I need to go grab something from my car, and I walk outside and I come face to face with someone taking my car. Like, I think that it could have gone so much worse, or there's possibility where that could have just ended really badly. And so I just feel in a weird way grateful that all I have is my car. But then this, like, the the crazy part of me feels like inanimate objects have feelings, and I feel like my car is mad at me for abandoning it or for leaving it unlocked and is somewhere scared and abandoned and sad. And I have to convince myself that that is not true. I even told my mom that yesterday, and she like fed into that like whole analogy. And I was like, that's literally not what I needed to hear from you right now, but thank you. So yeah, I've felt definitely very, I don't know. I feel lucky in a weird way. I feel grateful for everything I do have. Like, I don't know. I just have this picture of driving home on Sunday, March 9th. And it was a great day. It was a beautiful day outside, and church was in the back seat. And I just feel like, I don't know, in times like these, I just feel like things get put into perspective of like, I have everything I need. I know I don't have my car right now, and I hope that I get that back. And I really do believe that I will, but I have everything that I need. Like church is okay. Hayden's good. I'm good. Everyone is safe. Everyone is okay. Everyone's healthy. All of my belongings are here. Like I have my laptop, like everything is okay. So I don't know. I've just been kind of trying to look at it from a different perspective, even though it is very gross and a violating feeling, and it's going to continue to feel like that. But I'm just lucky that I have what I have, and that all they took was my car, even though they did take my car, and I'm not happy about that at all. If you're listening, give me my car back, please. Please. Anyways, you guys, that's kind of the story time that I have for you today. I guess this is going to be something that we continue to keep updated on. Check back next week. Also, you can follow me on Instagram because I'm going to keep you guys updated over there as well. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Cross your fingers, say a prayer, whatever you believe in. Believe that my car will come back. We can manifest together. But with that all being said, you guys, it's going to be all for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Again, if you're new here, hi, my name's Savannah. I typically don't post story times like this, and hopefully I never have to again. But if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We post weekly here every single Friday, and on the and on YouTube every Friday as well. So make sure you're subscribed, like I said. I'll be back next week with a brand new one for you guys, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.